You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Hello, it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is the CreepGeeks Podcast. What?
Okay.
I'm excited. This is Season 6, Episode 242.
All right. The God Note and Sonic Frequency Healing.
Yeah, and actually what this is, you are listening to a CreepGeeks Podcast Patreon sneak peek episode.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think what we're trying to say is we're giving our regular listeners an exclusive episode normally reserved to our Patreon patrons.
Yes.
Yes.
Very nice. So recently we recorded an episode about the God Note and Sonic Frequency Healing, and in our last podcast that we did, our non-Patreon only podcast, we actually we played some of that Sonic Frequency Healing the entire episode, and we asked if anybody would like to reach out to us and let us know how they felt. And do you know what the overwhelming response was?
What?
Nobody said anything at all. So, anyway, in order to give everybody kind of a chance or an idea of what we do on our podcast Patreon page, we decided to go ahead and release one of these episodes.
Cool.
So, this one I liked. I thought it was kind of fun. So, anyway, that's what we're going to do. So, this episode number 242, Season 6 of the CreepGeeks Podcast, is our Patreon 9 episode, which is the God Note and Sonic Frequency Healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'd just like to thank our patrons for making this possible. If you decide that you would like to become a patron, it's easy to do. Just click the link that's in the show notes. Or just look for us on Patreon.
Yeah.
No pressure. It's all right. It's all good.
Patreon.com/CreepGeeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's something we don't really advertise too much, but it's there. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. See you next week.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the CreepGeeks Patreon Plus episode number 9.
The God Note and Sonic Frequency Healing.
That's right. Okay, so it's been a long time since we've done one of these, and we need to start doing them again.
Yeah.
And we were kind of, anyway, whatever, man. Everybody's got issues, everybody's got problems, and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we thought we would do one of these episodes for you guys. A little special.
Yeah.
It's about when I get that feeling. I need Sonic Frequency Healing.
Oh, God.
Sing it.
No.
When I get that feeling, I need some frequency healing. Okay, so this particular episode is a little bit weird. I came across this a while ago, and I started to do some research, and started really falling down a rabbit hole, and then I realized that I liked the idea behind it, you know? Mm-hmm. But, man, I don't want to devote my life to this kind of thing.
Yes.
It's involved. You know? And what I'm talking about.
That's a nice way of putting it.
It is. It's very involved. This goes all the way back to the mysterious land of Mu
and
Lemuria.
And when he stands there in the kitchen and tries to explain it, and going on the 3rd minute, the 5th minute, the 8th minute, and my eyes start to glaze over.
I look like Charlie Day from freaking Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Or Pennsylvania, whatever it's called, where he's all crazy and gesticulating at the whiteboard.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't have time.
Now, granted, a lot of this could be summarized with some interesting things I've noticed after Greg was done talking, and I got on my phone and looked at some things. So, yeah.
You're like, let me go ahead and fact check him.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's mostly what it is. She's fact checking me. She's like, what? Have you been taking your medication? I'm like, yeah, let me tell you a little story about diabetes medicine, high blood pressure medicine, right? Mm-hmm. And a 12-pack of peppermint patties. Okay, so here's the scoop. So sonic frequency healing and the idea that you can use sound waves to do different things has been around for a very, very, very long time. Nobody can really say how far back this sort of thing goes. You can't.
Okay.
And the idea that you can use frequencies to do different things, and you can also use certain sound frequencies at certain oscillation times that happen, which are cycles, right? To move heavy objects and build the pyramids and all. It's crazy way out there stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there may be some factual stuff behind. I can't really say factual. That's just it, really. But there may be something behind it. You know, you've got all these all these things out there, and you may have seen them, like the healing bowls and the singing bowls, where you got people that are, you know.
There's even apps, which I just added to the bottom of this podcast.
Right. Well, I was going to get to that, but I'm making have you ever gone to, or I'm trying really hard not to be disparaging to hippies and things like that, because I get where they're coming from with the ideas that they have. Mm-hmm. And I understand how singing bowls are used, you know, to bring about certain feelings and tonals and all this stuff. And a lot of it's way out there woo-woo.
Agreed.
But a lot of it's not, because you also have Tibetan chants and the monks, and they do the deep-throated sort of drone that goes on to get to certain levels of enlightenment, and they're deep in the meditations, and a lot of it from the outside looking in, you're like, what? This is all garbage. Mm-hmm. But it may not be. I can't prove it either way. But the more I started digging into this, the more I realized I just don't have time in my life to do all this stuff, right? Because I'm like, whoa, I mean, this is like, people, they put so much time and effort, and you can spend generational sort of knowledge gets passed down, and there's people that study this for hundreds of years and all this stuff. And I was just interested into it as a thing to look at, because when I was in the Navy, I hunted submarines using sound. Mm-hmm. I did. I was on a surface ship, hit a button, makes a pinging noise, and you can track things actively or passively using sound and different cycles and intervals. And so it had my interest from that point. But then I came across a thing that sort of made me really want to look into this a lot more. And it has to do with music. Okay. Now, I'm not a musical person. I like to listen to, same thing with cooking, right?
Okay.
Not really a chef. I'm an eater.
All right.
Right? I'm not a free eater that walks around just randomly eating stuff out in the street like a piece of pizza, because I think that you should be arrested if you're just out there wandering around just free eating a piece of pizza in a location outside that, you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Just like randomly walking down the street or coming out of a library, eating a piece of pizza, you should probably be arrested.
Okay.
There's time and a place. It's not get all crazy, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's an idea that, a conspiratorial idea, that the frequency that music was made and composed to shifted or changed over time to be less harmonious and more harmful to the soul.
Okay.
All right. And I came across the sort of conspiracy, I'll be honest, through a couple different places, but the one that sort of nutshelled it or put it in a little shell for me was on TikTok. But he got me out of TikTok to look at some different things, right? Mm-hmm. And the conspiracy, you can read this because we do have notes and things like that. If you look at the, it's called the 440 hertz conspiracy. Okay. And it says, and you can click on the link, but it basically says 432 hertz, can't talk today, the God note.
Yeah.
In music. Right? And this is by Alpha One. I don't know who that is, but that's a cool name, right? What's your name? I'm Alpha One.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is off Universal Intelligence Space, or universalintelligence.space. And I'll just kind of go over it a little bit. Have you ever noticed that you're more pumped with a particular type of music and slow to focus with other types of music? It's been repeatedly debated on which frequency produces the perfect tune between 440 hertz and 432 hertz. And the debate continues today. Right?
Yeah.
It's been known that in even ancient times, musical instruments were created with the 432 hertz frequency. And this was the most preferred way above any others, as it created a more soothing sound, calming the senses to, or basically of anyone who would listen. The whole music soothes the savage beast idea, right?
Yeah.
So, historians have found that ancient lyres and wind instruments used by the Greeks and Egyptians have all been tuned to 432, and the lyres were an important part of their culture and ceremonial worship, and it was also said to arouse compassion and good thoughts in people. I think we could all do with some of that.
Yeah.
But the frequency was changed during ceremonies before the war to basically install strength and bravery in its soldiers, so that they could, you had one frequency designed to give you strength and, basically compassion and good thoughts. Another one to give you strength and bravery.
All right.
Now, this kind of goes, if you were a young headbanger back in the day, do you think you could jump in the mosh pit listening to something like Barry Manilow?
No.
No way, man. You need some Slayer. I don't know, something to thrash around. I don't even know what kids listen to these days.
So
Need some Anthrax, some Slayer. Anthrax is kind of lame, but anyway.
Yeah, but that makes me wonder, what frequency does the music I listen to play at?
Exactly. The boots and pants music?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say.
Okay.
We'll work our way to it, maybe. Mm-hmm. It's boots and pants, like boots and pants, right? Okay. So here's the 440. We're going to call it the 440 conspiracy. Okay, so during the Nazi reign, there's a conspiracy that the Nazi standardized the frequency of music in the entire world. And this basically was used as a mind control technique as initiated by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Illuminati. And it was also promoted by Joseph Goebbels. He was the German minister of propaganda during Hitler's reign, and by the time World War II was over, 440 hertz became the standard, followed by musicians until today. So basically, 432 shifted to 440.
Okay.
Right? So psychologically, experts found that this music appeals to human emotions. It has a certain effect on the brain and transcends a person's feelings, perceptions, and consciousness in that moment. And even Sigmund Freud's theories became handy in establishing what the Illuminati found to be useful in promoting mass hysteria and mind control.
Okay.
Right? So even today, in millions of ads that sprout everywhere, everything is tailored to mesmerize and influence our desires over things. And advertisers mastered the art of seduction, and that most of the influential brands in the market today are being promoted by a powerhouse of artists believed to be recruited by the Illuminati. And the most memorable ads have an enchanting soundtrack that relays in our minds even after watching or listening to it, and this tune plays on a high frequency known as 440 hertz. Right, yeah, you like it? Are you just slipping down the hole? Yeah,
No.
You are. Oh, yeah, hold on. But wait, what about this frequency called the God note? See, because with every good thing, you have to bad and good. Here's the good part.
Yeah.
The God note in music is said to be the frequency of 432 hertz. And when we listen to the music played at this tune, it brings out this calm feeling coupled with a great outlook in life. It is said to take after a godlike voice so serene that it touches the soul in different depths. It vibrates kindness, love, compassion, and emotions in all its perfect light. Unlike the 440 hertz frequency, which demands urgency and is more helpful when working, creating a productive environment to the listener, 432 encourages reflection, selflessness, and service to others, thus paving the way for community building. And the world is filled with different distracting noises and keeps kind of going on. But in a cognitive neuropsychiatry study, I can't say it right, conducted by German psychologists, they used individualized neuroactive music therapy to investigate its effects on the brain when patients diagnosed with psychoticisms, paranormal anxiety, phobic anxiety, and some
Paranoia.
other stuff, right? Yeah, basically paranormal, right? And Mozart was used in one of these key pieces in the experiment, which is believed to provide the brain with the music comfortable for listening and to improve the performance of a certain mental task, right?
Yeah.
Like spatial, temporal reasoning and things like that. And the study used music in the old French pitch at 432 hertz, which proponents believe corresponds with the harmonic ratio of the natural body rhythms, including the electrical activities in the brain. and it should have a measurable effect on our metabolism, breathing, pulse, and other bodily functions. And they concluded that the Mozart effect changed the mood of patients, enhancing brain rhythm synchronization that elevated psychotic anxiety and phobic symptoms. Not elevated, alleviated, sorry.
Yeah.
So 432 is supposed to be this nice calming sort of thing, right? And I think that when you see a lot of studies where they're like, if you listen to classical music, you're a better person, but if you listen to rock and roll, you're evil. Or that I think it's sort of loosely based off this kind of thing where if you played Mozart to plants, they grew healthy. If you played Slayer to plants, they died.
That was recently debunked a few years ago. It was consistency, playing the music, and making sure that the particular album that you were playing.
Now, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I raise you psychological torture. Do you think they play Beethoven when they psychologically torture people? Absolutely not.
No.
Slayer, all sorts of other garbage like that.
Actually, lately, I've heard it's...
Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Anything on repeat.
Yeah.
Especially if it has an earworm built into it.
Yeah, so it'll be anything on repeat or the psychological aspect. They'll play like very patriotic to other countries' musics. Yeah. But...
So the God Note is called such because it relieves the stress and finds the lost. So if this is the case, our standard of music should be divided into two. One is progressive and the other one's for reflecting and relaxation. Now, what they're saying is repeated 432 hertz frequency is good for you, right? But 440 is not. So that you never have a chance to sort of rejuvenate and relax and reduce stress. You're under a constant pressure.
Yeah.
And so 440, which is what everything has been, more of a driving force behind music these days, creating that frenetic pace and feelings we get with life in general, it just doesn't help. And so this was a conscientious effort that was put in place by the Illuminati to keep things going. Because at the end of the day, the Illuminati is the almighty dollar and population control. So that's kind of a nutshell for this whole thing.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of things to consider.
Oh yeah, there is. There's a lifetime of research that can be to go into this garbage.
No
right?
offense, it doesn't matter what frequency you play modern country pop music to, it's going to make me uncomfortable and make me climb the walls because that just is not my thing.
All right, you're fine with it. I get it.
But
however,
I will say, if you take some Beethoven or some stuff that's not normally something I listen to, including elevator music, as long as it's at a certain frequency, I don't mind it.
You're proving my point completely.
Yes,
you did. You just completely proved it.
Sure, but if...
So you have to understand, you can compose music in certain keys, right? And you can also use the underlying frequencies to go along with it. So effectively, if you used 432, whether it's gospel music or, elevator music or boots and pants music, if you stick to it long enough, you should get the feelings of relaxation.
Okay.
Now, even if you hate country music and it was basically composed at 432, the idea is that using that 432 hertz frequency built into the music and the keys of the music, at the end of the day, you can still dislike it, but you're not angry about it. You're not like, I'm ready to fight because I don't like this music.
But I'm saying there's other factors. Like somebody could have like some sort of trauma or some sort of stigma against a particular music and no matter what, not like it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm saying if you blasted modern country or for me, big band music, like at 432 or the God Note or whatever, it's going to be torture for me.
Yeah, but at what level of torture would it be if you just compared to, say, the 440? Who knows? Because at the end of the day, the tonal frequencies that we're talking about are just frequencies. They're not actually any like music behind them. People have to compose the music around it.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I have included in this particular podcast episode the app or one of the apps that you have listed. And we have, through the magic of Bluetooth, I am able to play frequencies.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And let's do the 440. hertz frequency. So if you guys are listening, here we go. Well, let me turn the volume up so make sure you can actually hear it. It's always embarrassing when you hit the button and nothing happens. So that's 440 hertz. That's the tonal frequency. It's not music. It's just the tone, right? And I will say on the side note, when I have gone through some of these frequencies, when I was in here composing this, making this podcast a while ago, Pepper did not like some of these frequencies.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because, so this is 440 hertz. And according to this, since the Nazis in World War II until now, most music, television, all that stuff, songs that you listen to today have been sort of composed around this frequency.
432?
440.
440. Okay.
440. Now, I'm going to shift it to 432, which is considered a God note. Did you even notice the difference?
Yes.
So it does drop, And of course, if you're like me and you have the constant ringing in the ears, it's maybe a little harder to hear. But the idea is that slight difference in frequency makes it to the point where, hey, this should cause relaxation and that sort of thing. And it may or may not. You're there looking like it's giving you a headache.
It's making my eyes really...
It's making your evilness go away.
It's making my eyes really droopy.
Yeah. You know what that's called? Relaxation. I'm going to need you to wake up. There you go. Back to 440. Get to work. 432.
Stop messing with it. You can actually... I've heard that adjusting the frequencies and playing with them...
False.
Can make people's stomachs upset and stuff like that.
Well, I was going to get to that. See, and I know that when I was saying that there is some, idea that some of this stuff may be true. Okay. When I was in the military, I was in the Navy, hunted submarines by sound. We had different frequencies we could use, for active transmission, right? Mm-hmm. Sonar, which stands for sound, navigation, and ranging. We had settings that we could use for like, hey, a swimmer is in the water coming to put a mine on the side of the ship. Let me activate this sonar. Mm-hmm. And the sonar transmission would do well to dispatch said swimmer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was all sorts of different tonal frequencies we could pick and use to do different things. And we do know that sound does have an effect. And basically sound in the water acts the same as much as microwave does in the air. And there's the Havana syndrome, right? Where magically, people's brains are getting fried because of some kind of weird thing that only they can hear. And there's also the mythical brown note. Have you heard of the mythical brown note?
Everyone who watched South Park has heard of the brown note.
Well, where do you think they got that from? It's a non-lethal weapon. If I hit you with a certain frequency, you will, in fact, in a nice, polite way, shit your pants. Mm-hmm. Now, does it actually work? I don't know. I mean, what frequency would you actually pick? What's the frequency you pick between making someone relieve themselves involuntarily or nuking their guts?
I don't know.
Exactly. So, all that, well, I'm sure would be a highly, guarded secret. And the idea that actually exists would come from research back in World War II and even earlier, where they were trying to figure out radar and sonar as a means of using energy to do things. Energy to track, whether it's in the sea or the air, or disperse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, that's kind of crazy. And I kind of went through and did some more looking at it. And it's like, why do they call it the God note? It's the frequency. And you can really look into this. And it even ties into things like time and distance and space and all this other crazy stuff. And honestly, I just didn't want to go down this rabbit hole with this particular thing. As a thought, because there's people that do this for a long time. So there is a frequency guide put together to sort of help you if you believe in this kind of thing, or if you think it has some sort of effects, right?
Yeah.
And this is called the Solfeggio Frequency Guide. And it has a list. For example, 174 hertz reduces pain and alleviates stresses. Playing the note at 285 hertz influences energy and rejuvenation. Right? 396 hertz liberates guilt and fear. 417 hertz facilitates change. 528 hertz is transformation and miracles. 639 hertz is connecting in relationships. 741 hertz, expression and solutions. 852 hertz is returning to spiritual order. 963 hertz is awaken the crown the spirit. And what's considered the whole body regeneration?
Yeah.
That's the 528 hertz. Is what they're saying.
Huh.
So 528 hertz is whole body regeneration, full body healing, and emotional and physical healing.
But then on the guide it says transformation and miracles, which gives it like that whole religious connotation.
All of this stuff has a sort of a religious connotation to it. And it's not
Interesting.
necessarily like Christian or anything, because
Yeah.
it doesn't apply. Using sounds and frequencies goes back to the ancient and lost lands of Lemuria and Mu.
Mm-hmm.
So this is part of the, when I get that feeling, I need some hot sonic healing. Right? Here's where I'm going to tie us into something completely weird that I can't prove, that we sort of talked about.
Mm-hmm.
What about when we talked about quartz crystals? Quartz crystals, they have a frequency built into them. Remember when we talked about quartz? And that quartz is under pressure and creates a piezoelectric effect?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a certain cycles that it goes to. And quartz is the most natural, abundant crystal that we have on the planet.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of quartz crystal that's located along ley lines and things like that. So let's just say back in before we even have any kind of history that we can dwell upon, right? Back when Lemuria and Mu were lands that were around, otherwise known as Atlantis. Mm-hmm. If everything was tuned before the Earth's mantle slip occurred and shifted the poles, and all these deposits of quartz crystal along ley lines were all in tune, and you could tap into the frequencies, you could probably do things like levitate objects and do all sorts of sonic woo stuff like they're saying. There's a possibility that it may actually exist.
Yeah.
So that would be, because, if you put quartz under pressure, you can make things levitate.
Yeah.
You can recreate it in the lab by using the frequencies. So you can take some of these frequencies and combine them together and actually levitate things. So if everything on a worldwide or Earth scale was perfectly aligned the way it was supposed to be, then making things like the pyramids and moving huge blocks would be nothing. You could build a civilization easily.
But that tectonic plate slip
If everything gets out of whack.
pushed everything out of whack and made it unable to repair.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So if you play a guitar or a stringed instrument long enough, it eventually gets out of tune.
Yeah.
So what do?
Retune it.
Sure. But what if you don't know how to?
And see, that's where I'm like,
So if the mantle slip occurred and civilization was lost, like Atlantis or whatever was actually lost, and nobody knows how to tap into that or tune that or do that, then it's lost technology. It goes away.
that would have to be so tremendous, though. I mean,
Well, if you go back to a theory that we have been sort of recycled many, many times, where the Earth cleanses itself of humans and we eventually go back, you keep losing technology.
like the mud flood theory. And
Right. If all that stuff occurred, then this is lost technology, lost knowledge.
So going back with what you said with the whole, like, piezoelectric and quartz crystals and generating that electricity and that energy's at a certain frequency, it brings to mind, I saw a post recently on Facebook about autism
Yeah.
and the annoyance of sound.
Yeah.
And there are different levels of being neurodivergent and having certain levels of autism, to the point where electricity has a sound.
Yes.
Light has a sound.
Yes.
And if it bothers you so much, on top of light and electricity and like motor vehicles and people, everything makes a sound. And depending on the severity or significance of your neurodivergence or autism, it gets overwhelming.
Yes.
So going out to places in nature, it makes me want to know, like, well, what frequency do people hear when they're out in nature hiking away from electronics? Because I know myself, I have to go hiking sometimes. I really do. Because the buzz of everything does get to me. And I can tell when I go into a building with cheap lights, you know?
Well, yeah.
And if that frequency is so detrimental, why haven't we done something about that? Especially for people who are neurodivergent or especially affected. Sensitives, if we say.
Effectively, the amount of people that are sensitive to the point, are tuned into it, are so insignificant you can't change the entire culture around it or civilization around it.
Which is weird because autism's becoming more prevalent in our culture.
Yeah, it is, but they still don't know why it's becoming more prevalent. I mean, you can go back to that old movie Johnny Mnemonic with Keanu Reeves back in the olden days, where people were being poisoned by just electronics.
Yeah,
and then you've got the 5G fear.
Yeah,
because sound and frequency are their energy. So sound and energy, and frequency or radiated energy through like electronic means, it's still energy, and people can be affected by it.
I mean,
but there is something that people can do that they don't normally do.
What?
You ground yourself.
I mean,
you go barefoot. You go outside. You ground yourself to. I mean,
after a really good hike,
if you take your shoes off and you ground yourself to the earth, because we are electrical beings. I'm sure you've seen commercials where it talks about that, but we are influenced by the electromagnetism in the earth. It's part of what we call gravity. Yeah. You can ground yourself, and you would be maybe shocked and maybe not shocked. Go out there and stand in be tired, like you're saying, right? And take your shoes off and stand in the yard. I mean, your feet on the earth.
After a good hike, like in New Mexico, it didn't matter. As long as it was a good hike, I was good, but here in North Carolina, I got to exhaust myself. I got to get away from the electricity for a while. And lately, I have been taking my boots off and stepping in the creek or in the water. And it kind of helps.
Yeah, well, if you do it long enough, it will help. And it won't matter where you are, because your environment has nothing to do with it, really. It just depends on where you are. If you earth yourself and ground yourself, it does change the way the energy flows, the gravity and everything else, through you and back into the earth.
So you're saying...
And this is not woo-woo stuff. This is like if you grab an electric fence and you're grounded, you may be just fine until you unground yourself and cause an issue.
So you're saying even despite like all electronics in this room right now, if I put my feet on the ground for long enough, I'll be okay? Or do I have to actually go outside?
You do both. How do I know? Nobody really knows for sure. I mean, yeah, if electricity and electronics bother you, you get away from the source. It's like anything. If the fire is burning you, move away. Right? Yeah. If it's too cold, go where it's warm. But in order to help yourself physiologically and probably, a little bit of a psychologist, well, they say go out and tree bathe, right?
Yeah.
You get into nature because it does reduce all the electronic stimuli. But physically putting your feet on the earth is a practice that's been around since the beginning of time. And it's like when you hear from a lot of ancient cultures, like be one with nature, be a part of the earth and all that stuff. They're not talking about running around with combat boots on. They're saying, hey, man, be a part of the earth, as in put your physical feet on the earth.
Forest bathing.
What did I say? Tree bathing?
Yeah, but because I was like, it's called something, and I had to look it up because what bothered me the most was it's common sense. Go outside for a little bit,
Yeah.
But there's I swear to God, folks, there's this book on Amazon about forest bathing, and I swear it's $37 to get told to go outside.
Yeah. Well, the Japanese have a thing about it too, where they basically have forests and parks and stuff set up for you to go out and forest bathe.
Yeah.
And they recommend it.
Which is funny because here in North Carolina, we have Tom's Creek, which is a pretty waterfall I've been to a couple times. And people are getting mad because people are forest bathing there. Because it's a nice, level, easy, accessible trail for lots of different folks. And it's nice because you can take your shoes off and you can step in the little pool at the base of the waterfall. And they're like, you're hurting the salamanders.
Well, that may be true, though, actually. Because, if you think about people in general, the soap that's still on your skin, you can definitely wreck an environment. But you don't have to be in the water. You can just go take your shoes off and go out in the yard for a while. And even to some degree, being on cement can help. If you think about, we've lost touch with our feet on the earth. Our houses are built. They're not built, some are. They're built on a cement slab, but they're usually, built above, right? We wear shoes that insulate us from the earth and everything else. So, there is something to this idea of, grounding yourself or earthing yourself. And it does have a physical change in the way your body is. They've measured people using all sorts of stuff. It's kind of a weird science thing, but where they've measured people's electrical resistance and things like that, and how their bodies are at before and then standing on the earth for a while, and they've seen a change. Yeah. And there's people that'll swear by it, like, you go out there, stand in the yard, and, I did this every day for 30 days, I stand in the yard barefoot for 30, and my arthritis in my knees is gone, and my joints feel better, and all this crazy stuff, and you're like, you're a freaking whack job. But they're not.
Yet mental health providers lately have actually started prescribing outside time as part of your mental health treatment.
That's slightly different because they're saying just go outside.
Yeah.
Because fresh air and all that sort of thing. These people, and the idea behind it is go get in physical contact with the earth.
Yeah.
Whether you're standing on a square patch of dirt that's grounded to the earth or out in a yard or anywhere.
Yeah.
Even in a park.
They're saying, like, especially for younger children and other folks, spend that time outside playing in the outdoors.
And guess what we're doing as a society with our schools?
No recess time.
Right. We're taking that away. They're going outside, along with the fresh air, and they're running around the physical exertion and all that sort of thing. We're taking all that away, so they can't. And they took grass away. Most places are like, there's either sand or there's soft mats and things like that. When
AstroTurf, I accidentally melted during the photography class.
Yeah, because, and even that, is insulated against everything.
Because it was weird. One of the schools that I taught at this summer, I had all the students go out and take photography, do some photography stuff. And one of the kids dropped the photography ball.
Yeah, crystal ball.
It's a super thick crystal ball, and it bounced.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Yeah, I knew it was going to bounce." I was like, and he's like, "Watch!" And he shoved one of the other kids, and the kid bounced. Yeah. And I'm like, first off, no more camera for you.
Yeah.
But still, I dropped right on my butt to see if I'd bounce. You weren't on the dirt.
No, I fell on the gravel. I didn't bounce.
Yeah, but their favorite thing during that whole class I taught was when we got away from the AstroTurf and we walked down. Yeah,
you get back into the whole nature of it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the crystal skulls. Remember, those are crystal. Yeah. Some of those are supposed to be tuned. Because you watch a lot of documentaries and they don't really go into that. And there's some like, we've applied 432 hertz and we've applied all these different hertz levels to them to see how they react. Some of them say, some people have had experiences like when they go in there and they feel one way or the other. And if you look at quartz as a whole and how it can store information, and it does have certain cycles to it and all that sort of thing, and it beats with the heartbeat of the earth and all this crazy jazz, and you apply frequencies to it, they do different things. So what if you blasted one of these skulls with with the correct frequency? What would happen? Would it levitate? Would it create a weapon? Would it blow up?
Oh, I'm thinking much smaller scale. Like, what if we took some of my crystal jewelry I made, or the little carved little cat I have, and we play one of these hertz in this office for a while? Is it just going to be a nicer little cat statue that helps reduce pain and alleviate stress?
I don't know. I think there probably need to be more with it. It's like the idea of grounding, right? If all the sort of the ley lines and stuff, and if everything was put in place a certain way, and now that's shifted, if you set that crystal, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
On a ley line somewhere, would that make it actually work? Would you have to apply the frequency and put it on a ley line where the magnetism is the strongest to actually make it work?
That sounds like a whole ritual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what if a lot of that is brought about by the fact that sound and frequency, which is energy, and it ties to the earth and everything else that goes along with it, what if there is a large degree of that to actually be true? We just don't know what the hell we're doing with any of it, and we look like morons.
Imagine some of these frequencies
Seriously
bouncing into space, and aliens are just like, nah. Do you see what they're doing? They're blasting each other.
If you think about it, if you're an alien cruising by space and you see all the transmissions and stuff that does emanate from the Earth and goes out into space, you're like, that is the noisiest, trashiest, little loudest planet out there.
Oh, we are the trailer park at the end of the universe.
Or we're the light bulb at the end of the universe. People are like, well, let's go see what that is.
I like my example.
So, who knows, right? So we're going to play some frequencies for you and tell you what they are, so you can get an idea if this is something that you're interested or not. And I'm going to use an app because apps are easy. I'm going to use the solfeggio. I may be pronouncing this wrong. I don't know. Frequencies, right? And let's do the whole body total harmonic total Jim Chuck Norris frequency, which is the 528 hertz. Let me crank it up for you so you get that sonic frequency healing. Now, the idea is that if you play this and meditate to it, that you can facilitate whatever it is, the frequency saying that you can facilitate, right? The whole body regeneration. Okay, so let's play 417 hertz. This is the one that's supposed to facilitate change. So if you meditate on this and apply it in your ritual life, I guess, you can facilitate change. It doesn't say good or bad, but I'm assuming, since they just assume that people are trying to be better, that this would be a good change. What that is probably intensely personal. So that's 417 by itself. Now let's just say we need some serious frequency healing. We can stack them. Now I've got 417 and 528 together. Right? Excuse me. So let's look at this as like, here's another one that we can look at. Maybe we need to connect or generate a relationship or fix or repair a relationship. We can do frequency 639. So now we have triple frequencies going on. We've created a harmonic, a multi-level harmonic here. We've got 528, 417, and 639. And that's 639 by itself. And 639 was connecting in relationships. So now if we do another frequency, let's pick one that we have here. Liberating guilt and fear, 396.
You're creating your own little close encounters of the third kind.
Funny you mentioned that, close encounters, and using music and frequency to communicate. That's entirely possible, because communication frequencies, right, and harmonics and repeating frequencies and all sort of thing turns into mathematical equations.
Mm-hmm. One of these.
So that was 396. I'm trying to turn them off.
One of them's making my right eye close.
Means you're halfway there.
But then when you were playing, which one was it? 639, I was able to open it back up.
So let's do 174, which is to reduce pain and alleviate stresses. This is probably one that most people could benefit from if this is actually real. And they're saying that this is an anesthetic for pain reduction, so that you can basically heal yourself using sonic frequencies. Now, what happens if you stack all these together in different combinations? I don't know. I mean, maybe it does create something that...
Brown note, because you go into overload.
I mean, is there a point where if you stack these frequencies together and play them at the right interval or opposing intervals, it creates a negative effect?
Wasn't there a podcast, like a show called Tanis, that said that or something?
Well, I don't know. Because the whole thing is still theoretical, right? Mm-hmm. But they've done tests, and there's all these different, studies and stuff that do say that some of these frequencies do have some sort of psychological or physiological effect on people. Now, the frequencies we're playing right here, this is transformation and miracles, or the whole body deal, right? We're facilitating change. We're connecting in relationships. We're reducing pain and alleviating stresses. We're trying to influence energy for rejuvenation. And we're also liberating guilt and fear. And basically, those are the top 6 frequencies that people try to play all the time when they're into this kind of thing.
One of them's making my right eye hurt so bad I can't deal. So.
Well, that sounds like you got something you need to work on.
Thanks.
I don't know what to tell you, right?
it sounded like, it reminded me of like, I could have sworn I heard something like that at the end of a movie.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. You know, and with these apps and stuff, with Salveggio, I don't know how to pronounce it, frequencies, you know, there's music you can buy that has these frequencies or a frequency or a combination of frequencies embedded together. And when you play it, it sounds like every holistic sort of woo-woo spiritual store that you go into, that this is the stuff that they play, you know, or if they're using the singing bowls and all that sort of thing, this is all the woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
That if you believe in it or not, it's cool. You know, but the idea that there is something behind frequencies and energy and all that sort of thing, and I firmly believe that. Now, is it like what I'm reading and what we've talked about? No, but I mean, I do know that there is energy out there and energy does stuff. I mean, I've used it to track submarines.
Yeah.
So there is something to it. Now, and as a race, I don't think we're smart enough in this generation or this incarnation or this cycle of people. I don't think we're smart to figure it out, but that's not to say that in the past, maybe there really was an Atlantis that utilized sound and frequencies and energy like this through the natural, you know, sort of creation from the earth.
Yeah.
To do stuff. And what if it all went wrong? You know, what if the mantle shift or pole shifted or whatever knocked everything out of alignment and wound up blowing themselves up and sinking?
So that's why they didn't fix it.
Who knows?
It's because
there was no one there to actually fix it.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you're in a supercomputer based society and all of a sudden 99% or 92% of the Earth gets wiped out people wise. If you don't have a computer, dude, then you're just guessing. You know, 1,000 years later, you're looking back going, yeah, what is that? Well, I think, you know, this box.
I think this made a 10-day calendar.
Yeah. Like, I think. Because, I mean, who really knows? And trying to recover that lost knowledge, if you can, I mean, who knows where to look, man? I mean, could you even decipher the lost knowledge? If you took a CD and buried it in 1,000 years from now, somebody found that CD, like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
You know, but a rock or quartz or something like that, I mean, probably, because it's a naturally occurring substance. So it's just an idea. So anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about with this particular podcast, because I thought it was pretty interesting. Do you have anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up our Patreon Plus Episode 9, The God Note, Sonic Frequency Healing?
So this is going to sound kind of dumb because I am not a sound engineer.
Well,
like that.
Good for you that I am kind of dumb, so I could probably relate.
If I were to go, like if we were to go back to New Mexico and go camp at one of my favorite spots and just record the ambient noise, would we be able to find the frequency of whatever that ambient noise was?
I mean, you know, more than likely, no. Because it's a jumble of frequencies. You'd be looking for spikes in the frequency, so you're there in your most favorite spot trying to record it. For us to be able to do that, we don't have the equipment.
Okay.
And it would require equipment that's, you know, purpose driven. You know, it's a lot.
Like it's
easier to generate those frequencies than it is to find and capture those frequencies.
Like an example would be if we went to like Bisty Badlands and camped overnight, because that was a very calming night for me. Or interesting enough, go to Taos, New Mexico, where the Taos Hum used to be, you know.
Well, here's the problem you have, and you talk about all the electronic noise and stuff, right?
Yeah.
As you have in a house, outside has a different type of noise.
Yeah.
So you'd have to find a place that's been tuned in a way. Like maybe there's a certain composition of trees and locations along certain things to create that sort of effect. Because we've all gone places that feel much more serene and tranquil than others.
Yeah.
The woods here in Appalachia freak me out. They don't feel right.
Maybe
I go to the woods in Colorado and they're great.
Maybe it's all that piezoelectric.
It's called piezoelectric.
Piezoelectric.
Be science, homie. Be sciencey.
Quartz stuff.
Could be.
Whereas New Mexico and Arizona and even southern Colorado, it's all agate, which is a silicate. And it's composed differently. And if it's not agate, it's jasper, which is more solid than agate.
Most of these things aren't reactive until you apply pressure.
Yeah.
And the idea, like when we went and seen the Marfa lights, that the Marfa lights occur as a piezoelectric effect due to pressure. I think that's a more likely scenario to explain the Marfa lights than anywhere else. And they say here in the Brown Mountain lights, in this area that has the Brown Mountain lights, they try to say the same thing. It's piezoelectric effect caused by intense pressure on quartz. Now, the entire area does have some of the clearest and best quartz crystal in the world.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case because I've never seen piezoelectric embers or a spark fly around like that. And they say, well, it can create, plasma. But they can't prove it because they haven't been able to actually do that sort of thing to any great success. To where this shit just occurs whenever it needs to.
And that's the other thing. Because I'm thinking, like, as a amateur geology nerd, okay, quartz has a Mohs hardness of, like, maybe 5 or 6 or something like that. Agate and certain silicates, they're like only 2 steps under diamond, 2 or 3 steps under diamond. So the amount of pressure to apply to emit a frequency or to generate a frequency is monumental.
Well, I mean, we are talking about the Earth.
I know. It's bugging me. So
I mean, if the Earth can create diamonds.
True.
You know what I mean? Like Superman.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think that diamonds come out fully faceted, like you see on a ring, and they don't. They're just like, weird, sometimes semi-translucent rocks that you just throw.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I don't know. But I thought this was kind of weird because it starts to tie into, it starts to tie into a whole bunch of crap. And I think this is the problem we have with trying to explain a lot of woo-woo stuff and ancient alien junk and everything else that goes with it. If you don't have all the jigsaw puzzle pieces put together and they're all stretched out on a table, it's hard to get them all to fit when you don't know what the actual picture really is. And I think that over time, our lost knowledge, because there has to be lost knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Is if we had that, it'd be much, much easier to sort of figure things out. I think eventually somebody is going to figure it out.
Okay.
And parts of it will get fixed. Like the idea of using sound to levitate, that's going to happen. But now how do you use sound to levitate without blowing a hole in a wall and hurting somebody or, really going wrong with it? That's the trial and error phase of things.
Yeah.
Because like on our podcast that we talked about, in our regular podcast, using ions and ionic energy to create advanced propulsion methods, that's a thing. So, I mean, who knows? But anyway, there you go. That's pretty much what we're going to talk about for this Patreon Plus episode number 9, the God Note Sonic Frequency Healing.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this Patreon Plus episode. I do want to thank everybody who supports us and give you guys a little teaser. We did design another sticker for 2020, and that'll probably be in
for 2022.
Yeah, 2022. Jeez, them noises messed me up.
Well, look, it sounds like you need to pick a frequency and stick to it for a while.
Yeah.
How about some,
anyways.
what you need? You need some miracles?
No. I think that's the one that's messing up with my right eye right now.
The transformation and miracles?
Yeah. So don't, now he's going to be doing, like, espionage on me.
No, that would be the Havana syndrome.
Yeah. But, anyways, we have yet another new sticker for 2022, and you guys are going to get that in your next rewards. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very excited.
So anyway, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, reach out to us. To be honest, don't reach out to us through Patreon. They never tell us when we never seem to get it. I don't understand.
It's because Patreon is so bandwidth reliant, and
that's going to be a part of it. It's I always feel bad when we go back and look, and it's like, oh, okay, missed that comment. But anyway, we do appreciate you guys quite a bit, and hey, reach out to us, man, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. But so there you go.
Thanks, y'all.
I was going to play a frequency, but I don't have one. I closed the app because I'm really good at this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, I think we're going to play you guys out with influence, energy, and rejuvenation. I think we can all use a little bit of that. What do you think?
Sure.
There you go. So, you can listen to this for another minute, maybe 2. All right. So, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.